We've got three speakers here tonight. We've got Danny McCafferty, who is the chair of our Yes West Dunbartonshire's coordinating group. We've got Fyfe, who is here to represent Women for Independence in West Dunbartonshire. And we've got Jonathan Mackey from Yes Scotland, who's going to give us a wee bit of an overview of the canvassing software that Yes Scotland are hoping to deploy. But to move things on, I can introduce you to Danny McCafferty, who's the chair of Yes West Dunbartonshire. Danny, like myself, is a former councillor. Recovering. He's more former than me, so he's more recovered than me. But Danny and I had the pleasure of working together in a Rainbow Alliance back in 2001. Seems like a million years ago already. And I think Danny's journey has been a different journey from mine to Yes. Obviously, I've had a very long road. I was brought up in a Yes family, very much so, and it's been part of my life and part of my political life for as long as I can remember, all my adult life. But Danny's had a different journey, but we've both arrived at the same destination. So can I ask Danny maybe to say a few words on behalf of Yes West Dunbartonshire?
There's no change, I never say a few words. You can wish. This is actually a quite unique occasion for me, because I never ever thought I'd participate in a campaign that could actually draw the Vale, Dumbarton and Clydebank together in one room. I just had never imagined it in my wildest dreams. And it would have been very easy to set up a Yes campaign like Yes Clydebank, Yes Dumbarton, Yes Vale, and everybody work in a fragmented way. And it's an absolute tribute to everybody in our localities and our communities. And the networks were built up over probably 30, 40 years, that in actual fact we've all come on a journey and we've all arrived at the same conclusion. And the people who are actually here, a lot of faces are very familiar with, right? And coming from parties and groupings which we normally fought against each other, right? And are now actually united in one single cause. And that cause is something which is going to happen in 35 weeks' time. When I first took a wee look at that, I said 35 weeks' time, I started to get the heebie-jeebies, because 35 weeks to me is nothing, right? And yet here we are, 35 weeks away from the most historic decision that Scotland will take since 1707. And the big difference between the decision now and the decision in 1707 is that the people are going to take this decision, whereas in 1707, it was the pastoral rogues who took the decision, who were in the pockets of the establishment at that particular time, and the people had no say. And for those who know their history, know the people weren't quiet. The people rioted in the streets. I bet you none of you get told that in your history books. We are not going to have to riot in the streets, but we are going to have to get very active. It's not as if we've not been active so far. There's been an awful lot happened in 2013. For those who are not familiar with it, I've already reprised some parts of it, and Ian can maybe add to it later on. We had one of the biggest meetings in Clydebank Town Hall, which has been seen since the days of the UCS. Dennis Canavan speaking, and with a cross-party selection of people on a platform. And it was actually reported in a double-page spread in the local paper. It was a fantastic feeling in that Clydebank Town Hall, and an historic occasion. But it didn't just stop there. It then went on to other events where people came together. And we didn't stay in our localities. We crossed over into, as I say, the three different areas. And there was the Pipe Band Championships, the Balloch Highland Games. There was small local stalls set up within localities, and people out leafleting. Thousands of leaflets have already been shifted through the doors in West Dunbartonshire. Thousands really have, right? There's been a fantastic amount of work done in the social networking sites, Facebook in particular, and that has transcended way beyond West Dunbartonshire into other different areas as well. And there's no question about it whatsoever that social networking will play a very crucial role in this campaign. The groupings we've got within Yes West Dunbartonshire, SNP obviously, SSP, Alclutha Command, and most significantly, there is a really big crowd of former Labour Party members and councillors. There are nearly as many former Labour councillors in Yes West Dunbartonshire as there are existing in the current Labour group. As many former Labour councillors are in the council. those who know me know that I've got very strong Republican sympathies. Right? I'm a Scottish Republican, I'm not a monarchist, right? But you know, I can live with it if we can get rid of Trident, because that can come later. It's not an urgency for me. So they have put forward all these arguments in terms of the bogussy of currency, of what we would do, the bogus arguments in terms of Europe, the bogus arguments in terms of defence. They wheel out the Treasury spokespersons hand over fist in terms of what we're going to and not going to do. But you know, their opinion poll ratings, for all the fact that they were ahead, haven't risen. I don't know who's going to feature on it, but my money's in Nicola Sturgeon, and if the bookies will give me odds, I'll be putting plenty on who's going to win those particular debates. Because I've already seen the massacre of Michael Moore and the massacre of Alistair Carmichael, and it's no wonder that Cameron was just too scared to cross the border. Of the British state and British establishment at us. They're gearing up towards it. So we have to be very prepared for that. When they get to the stage, we've got to be ahead of them, and we've got to be in our communities. They've tried the scaremongering. The scaremongering, I don't think, has worked. It's a failing strategy. Even their own friends and allies in the newspaper are fed up and scurried with it, so it's not going anywhere. They've tried the questioning techniques, asking for detail, right? Like forensic scientists in the forensics. They've also tried the bribery of the jam tomorrow, which they're now promising us, that they're going to give us this great new world under a social reconstructed UK negotiated by the Labour Party. 13 years in power didn't give us it. Yep. Gordon Brown, that man of great credibility and integrity, who actually calls a woman a bigot in private, but smiles through her face, and he thinks he's going to get through an election campaign without that revisiting him somewhere in the media. Of course it's going to revisit him. But there can only be one response to what's coming at us, and that is we need an army. And we need an army of volunteers. We need foot soldiers. We need people who are prepared to give up 35 weeks of their life. It's not a lot to ask, 35 weeks of your life. And we need to encourage other people to give up 35 weeks of their life, to put as much effort in as possible, to get out into localities. Yeah? You have to be able to get the alternative views through the doors. If we can't get it through television, radio, can't get it through newspapers, anywhere else, we have to personally deliver the message. And that takes an awful lot of bodies. So they've got different audiences. Don will touch on the women's audience. But we've got pensioners. Pensioners, by and large, do not frequent Twitter, do not, by and large, go onto Facebook and social networking sites. I said by and large. A lot of them still read the local newspapers. A lot of them still rely on the written media, and we've got to make sure we're covered within that. So we're engaged in the campaign, but we need to build it, we need to build an army. Because what we're actually arguing for is a social revolution. I make no bones about using that word revolution. The great John Maclean, when he was standing in the docks accused of sedition and revolution, was asked what he meant by revolution. And John Maclean said, revolution, they're there and we're there. Revolution means that. Plain and simple, it means social change. And we are engaged in a campaign for social change to bring social justice and decency and tolerance and understanding to our country and to show an example to other people coming through. And the only way we can get that is if people are educated, informed and got information at their fingertips. And we are the people who have to deliver that. So Better Together will hand out Better Together pamphlets and leaflets. They have no forces, they have no troops, nobody to deliver and no money to produce their own. We can get materials and resources from a variety of different places. But in West Dunbartonshire we've got a very special task. We have to produce in West Dunbartonshire a West Dunbartonshire only leaflet geared at our people in language that they understand on the issues which are important to them. There's no point in us saying we want rid of Trident when it's sitting in our back midden and we are the people who are actually supposed to be leading the fight to say we want rid of it. So we have to produce a leaflet for West Dunbartonshire which says we people of West Dunbartonshire want rid of Trident and why. We also live in a poverty-stricken community where we're currently running food share. And we have people in welfare who have been slaughtered in terms of the reforms. And we have to be able to get that into our leaflet, saying this is not acceptable in a socially just Scotland and we want to transform it. And we have to be able to talk about the economy. I am scunnered, fed up, having spent my entire life of initiative after initiative, think tank, task force, campaigns and employment, everything under the sun, and in 30 years I still see no benefits of all those millions of pounds of investment. The only people who ever made money out of West Dunbartonshire in terms of social regeneration were the consultants. The people certainly never made anything out of it. And we have to get those messages to our people and our communities who think like us, who act like us, because they will identify with us, because we are the same people as them. So we need money in order to be able to produce that. And when we actually do produce it throughout the whole of West Dunbartonshire, there will be no answer to it, because they can't do it themselves, they can't compete with us. So we've got a big job to do. 3 big issues: the economy, defence and welfare. And we have to do all that, and we have to do it in 35 weeks. So good luck.
Don will maybe give us a wee insight into how it is we can make our campaign work to reach out to the women in West Dunbartonshire.
And if you watch them on the television and on the news, we seem to be a bunch of fittering people who don't really know what we want. When really what's going on, I think, is that women are sensibly thinking through the issues that are important to them. And to be honest, every time I put on the TV, and I can't remember his name, but somebody was recently interviewing Nicola Sturgeon, they was banging on again about how the women were going to let her down because they couldn't make up their minds. And actually for me, not being at a stage that you're not entirely sure is a good place to be in this campaign. Why shouldn't you need the information that we've got to give you to take you on that journey? And that makes demands us, and that's good. I think the biggest problem for some of our campaigns are some people who have got dogmatic attitudes that that's what I've always done, that's what I've always voted, and I can't move on. Women predominantly are saying, I am here, I am ready, somebody has to give me the information that I need, and that's why we're here. And why is it important that women are involved? Well, apart from the fact that we're voters and we're residents in Scotland and we have as much human rights as men that are standing next to us, we're also underrepresented. We've been consistently underrepresented by every government in the UK for decades, for centuries. We've always been underrepresented, and that continues today. And in Scottish Parliament we've got 35% of the MSPs are women, but in Westminster it's 20%, it's even less. I mean, some of the issues that Danny were talking about welfare, where carers are seeing drops in their welfare benefits, where the bedroom tax is slaughtering people who have got caring responsibilities and needs for other families as well as their own, so they've got double family responsibility. For issues like that, it's really important to women because we are the predominant carers in our society. So issues like the welfare benefits are really important, and when we look at some of the statistics of the people who are voting, who are voted in, 89% of Scottish MPs said no to cutting child benefit, and it was cut in Westminster. 91% of Scottish MPs that were voted in said no to the bedroom tax, and we've got the bedroom tax. So even the people that are getting voted in are still being ignored by Westminster. So where does that leave us? And as women, we have to stand up and be counted on this. It's essential, because we can be part of that conversation that moves us towards equality. If we get independence on the 19th of September, when we get independence, and I'm so excited, I can't believe it's only 35 weeks. It's terrible. I don't know if I can contain myself next time. But when we get that independence, are we going to have more of the same? No. Are we going to continue with a same society where women are underrepresented, where children's rights are consistently ignored and consistently taken away from them, where older people are relying on women who are already under the cosh for trying to look after grandchildren or look after their own children, where there's no social justice in our society? Or are we going to be part of that conversation that says, wait a minute, this is what our experience is and we're fed up with it?
Yes.
We now want a written constitution that encompasses equality, that encompasses social justice, and that moves us to a place that we want to be, the reason why we're voting for independence. Because if we get independence, this dialogue opens right up. What happens? What happens if we get independence and the next time somebody goes to the polls they think, oh well, maybe I could vote Tory because Tories are representing my needs. As a Scottish person now, as a Scottish Tory. What happens if that happens, if we're not there to say, hey, wait a minute, what about our needs? What about our human rights? What about the human rights of the most vulnerable in our community? And that's why it's essential that women are part of this discussion. And women have always been part of the discussion in our community. We do talk about apathy, and that's fair enough. But women have always been political in our communities. It's just we do it differently. And that's the bit that we need to get across. We've always been the hub of what's going on in our communities. We've always been there when it comes to keeping families together. We've always been there when it's been bringing communities together. We've had Pippity parties, we've had Tupperware parties, we've had knitting bees, we've had Ann Summers parties, we've had all the parties. We're the ones that have always brought people together in our community. What we need to do is change the conversation. We have to shift that conversation towards where is our place in our political Scotland. Because in Scotland we are political. I think somewhere along the line everybody else forgot about that. And it's time they were reminded. It's time they were reminded that in this Scotland we refuse to take this anymore. We refuse to see our most vulnerable in the street. We refuse to see our most vulnerable having to go to food banks to beg for food. That is what we're asking people to do, to beg for food and get budgeting skills at the same time. What is that about? It's a Scotland that we want to welcome people in. We want to bring in people who are here to work. Someone in the telly the other day was saying, immigrants shouldn't be allowed to work for 3 years. What is that about? We want people in to contribute to our communities. We want people to be valued for what they can bring. It's always brought benefits and always brought breadth and wealth to Scotland. We want to continue that. And that is why women have to be part of this discussion. Now, towards moving towards getting power for our country, but also continuing on to what that written constitution is going to look like. So when those manifestos come out from the parties for the first election, it reflects our needs. And our needs cross over with men's needs all the time. Of course they do, particularly in working class communities. But sometimes the discussion, we talk about things, but really what we're talking about is men's experience. And women's experience has to now be recognised and enter into the political discussion. So what I'm hoping is we want to change the conversation and we want to support women to do that. We want women to have get-togethers in their homes. We want to continue that tradition that we have. We want them to have them in their communities and we'll support you with that. We've written up a wee pack that gives you information that you might be worried about. What if someone asks me about this or that? We'll give you that information. We'll be there if you want someone to come along and help out. But it's about getting women together, having that discussion, and then continue what we do and having fun after the Constitution, or we're in trouble, because we will lose that momentum that we're growing now. So lastly, just hope that people feel that they can come forward with us. Please come and see me at the end and I'll take your details and we can get information out, but anything at all for any help to hold parties, independent house parties is what we call them, any help about advice you can give to us, because this is a two-way dialogue, we're all involved in this. Please let us know. And also we will be having meetings in the different localities to make sure that women are getting access to the information they need. But thanks very much.
Our next speaker tonight is Jonathan Mackey. Jonathan is one of the kind of core team in Yes Scotland. Hopefully Jonathan's going to give you a wee idea of how it is we hope to achieve that by getting information from the people in the streets. Okay, Jonathan? Don't worry, Jonathan.
First off, just thanks to Ian for putting me on after Danny and Dawn. So you've had to steak and a lobster and you get the cold rice pudding. So there'll be, I'm just going to run through the system and talk about a wee bit about why, as Ian says, canvassing is incredibly important in terms of, not just in terms of the data we collect, but also just talking to folk. It's as simple as that. Some of the stuff I'll kind of go through, you don't need to know if you're champing doors, but it's handy to know what's happening behind the scenes. So when you're sitting with a list of names and addresses and phone numbers and you're talking to people, it's handy to know how that's been put together. There's two main reasons why the canvassing is really important. Number one, Danny talked about the media. The media, whether it's furthers or against, are trying to give us a fair shaking and tail, and there's no many doing that. But it's always going to go through a filter. It's always going to get twisted, there's things are going to get cut out or edited or spun in some way. If we're in the door of somebody champing their door, speaking to them directly, they're getting our message unfiltered to how we want to deliver it, the answers we want to give, and in language that folk understand. So many folk get put off politics, particularly party politics, because they see people in Scotland Tonight or Newsnight or the 6 o'clock news or whatever it is, and they've been media trained within an inch of their life. So they don't sound like me, they don't drop their H's or T's and all the rest of it. They're all very well spoken, they know how to look at the camera directly. And they're on another planet, to be honest with you. Whereas if you're on the doorstep talking to somebody and saying, "Oh Jimmy, what do you think about independence?" That's relating to somebody in their level, and you're out there in the piss and rain in the middle of February and all the rest of it. They give you a wee bit of respect for that as well, to be honest. So that's one part of it, but the big part of it is the data, is finding out how people are feeling, how they're voting, and what the kind of issues and what the questions and concerns they've got are. Because there are plenty of people who are undecided, who just don't have access to the facts, or don't feel well informed. And one of the things that we find for the research we do, and the canvas that comes back, is that the more people feel well informed and better informed and know more about the debate, the more likely they are to vote yes. So the more we get facts across, and the more we can answer people's questions.